Coming up on Valley View News, new deportation laws take effect across the nation. Plus, a local blind skateboarder wants to pave the way for athletes with disabilities. And a Beverly Hills bookbinder uses his small shop to restore antique collectibles.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Elizabeth Medina.
And I'm Mary Pronian in the Digital Media Center.
The largest storm of the season will bring heavy snow and downpours to the west coast this week. Winds as high as 60 miles per hour are anticipated in some areas. The National Weather Service says most of California will experience precipitation. Flash flood and mudslide alerts are predicted for Southern California. As severe weather affects many regions throughout the country, CSUN students reflect on ways they stay prepared for potentially hazardous conditions.
I know a lot of people go on Twitter and, the Twitter notifications that's in your area. Sometimes people will post about if there's a lot of rain.
But I'm not too worried. My car's a four-wheel drive, so I think I'll be okay.
The power storm comes after California experienced the second driest water year on record. The entire state is currently under a moderate drought watch. Experts say the expected rain and snowpack will bring some relief to the dry environment.
500 LA Unified School District employees who refused to get vaccinated against COVID-19 were fired. The decision was made last week when the school board voted 7-0 to terminate 496 employees. LAUSD personnel were required to be fully vaccinated by November 15th. About 34,000 students are still unvaccinated. According to a new policy, those students will be forced into the district's independent study program, or they will have to leave the LA public school system.
The LA Unified School District has voted for a new superintendent. The school board voted unanimously in favor of Alberto Carvalho, a superintendent of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, the fourth largest system in the country.
The Los Angeles Unified School System has offered me the position of superintendent. In fact, they just wrapped up a meeting where they unanimously have made this decision. And we're now going to enter a phase of contract negotiations.
LA has the second largest school district in the U.S. with over 500,000 students. Megan K. Riley has served as interim superintendent since Austin Butner stepped down in June. The details of Carvalho's contract are yet to be finalized.
An estimated 11 million people are undocumented in the U.S. Their future is set to change drastically after the Department of Homeland Security announced new deportation guidelines. Valley View's Diane Zermeño has the story.
The Department of Homeland Security says it'll no longer deport people solely for being undocumented. Homeland Security Chief Alejandro Mayorkas also says that ICE can no longer deport farm workers, faith leaders, or frontline health workers. In undocumented communities like Panorama City, some residents feel a sense of tranquility. I think it's the best decision that they made for us Latinos so we could work in peace, and give our families a better life. The new guidelines went into effect on November 29th. Only those who are suspected of terrorism or espionage, have committed serious crimes, or who crossed illegally after November 1st, 2020 are eligible for deportation. Some people agree that deportations are still necessary. It's good that they toss out those bad people. Every day there's deaths here, rapes. What is that, if this is the #1 country in the world? Alberto Vargas says his childhood was spent in a mostly undocumented community in the East San Fernando Valley. Now he works in local government. He says with the new rules, he and other people in undocumented communities can have access to places they once feared going to before.
People are going to rest a little easier to know that, okay, I'm not just going to be deported, or ICE is not going to come banging on my door to take me away just because I'm undocumented,
DHS says officers are currently undergoing training on the new guidelines to ensure effective implementation nationwide. Reporting from Panorama City for Valley View News, I'm Diane Cermeño.
Late Senator Bob Dole was honored with a service at the Washington National Cathedral. He died of lung cancer at age 98 on December 5th. Politicians from both parties attended, as well as family and friends. President Joe Biden praised his public service and called him a genuine hero.
Bob was a man who always did his duty, who lived by a code of honor. Almost seems strange to say that today, but he lived by a code of honor. And he meant it.
A decorated veteran, Dole was an advocate for service members and people with disabilities. During the funeral service, Dole's daughter shared a segment of a farewell letter her father wrote in secret. Dole asked the public to never forget the sacrifice made by those who wear a uniform.
California may become a sanctuary for those seeking abortions. This may be the result if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. Next year, up to 24 states will consider abortion bans. A group called the California Future of Abortion Council has created recommendations for the state to consider if the overturn is implemented. They also include assistance with lodging and travel. Meanwhile, Planned Parenthood organizers say they served 7,000 people last year from other states, with a recent increase coming from Texas.
Thousands of Cubans worldwide marched against the Cuban government in favor of a communist-free country. Valley View's Catherine Hernandez has the story.
Last week, thousands of Cubans took the streets protesting for a communist-free country. It was the largest protest in Cuban history since the 1959 revolution. Many cities across the world held demonstrations supporting the Cuban protesters, except for Los Angeles.
And so I saw that Los Angeles was not on the list, and I was in awe. I was like, how can LA not be on the list? Like, there's so many Cubans here. So I said, okay, well, I waited a couple of days, and then I said, you know what, I'm doing it.
Allegedly, many of the Cuban protesters have been sentenced to between 13 and 27 years in prison for speaking up and posting their views on social media. Even though the Cuban government says protesting is illegal, Cuban activists say they'll move forward with the pro-democracy marches. All to respect an ideology that is ancient. What it does is backtrack and destroy Cuba, leaving Cuba in what it already has been in, the ruins. Meanwhile, some Cuban Americans say they'll continue to fight for a Cuba Libre. They're waiting for the day when there's no longer division in their country. The Cuban government says they're protecting the rights of its people. Los Angeles protesters want Cuban protesters to know that no matter the distance, they aren't alone.
So that they can walk with a white rose and wear white and not be oppressed and beaten and put in prison. Viva Cuba.
Through the protests, Cubans simply want freedom and democracy. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Catherine Hernandez.
Donald Trump lost an appeal to block federal records from investigators of the 2021 Capitol attack. California Representative Adam Schiff explained what the January 6th House panel is looking for.
What anticipation did they have that there would be a march on the Capitol in the White House? What role did they play in planning any of this? What understanding did they have about who was going to be participating and the presence of white nationalist groups, the propensity for violence?
The former president now wants to ask the Supreme Court to overturn the decision. Trump appointed 3 of the justices serving currently, which he hopes will rule in his favor. The documents are being held by the National Archives and protected by executive privilege.
President Biden signed an executive order to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. The order is part of a broader agenda to transform the nation's energy system. It states that the federal government can have an influence on industries that build and manage electricity, vehicles, buildings, and other operations. The energy and climate agenda has already encountered resistance from some Republicans. Representative Carol Miller said Biden should focus on policies that strengthen domestic production instead.
The father and son accused of sparking the Caldor wildfire that burned during August through October in El Dorado and Amador counties have pleaded not guilty. David Scott Smith and Travis Shane Smith are facing multiple charges, including reckless arson, illegal conversion of a machine gun, and illegal possession of a firearm silencer. After a $1 million bail was set for each defendant, David Smith's attorney said her client is innocent and has proven that he isn't a flight risk.
They had no intention of not coming back to court, no intention of participating in anything like that. And in fact, it was to the contrary, trying to help out.
Court documents don't detail the exact connection between the Smiths' firearm and silencer with the Caldor fire. However, they stated specific dates for when the silencer was acquired and when the weapon was illegally altered. In total, the Caldor fire burned 221,835 acres for 69 days. 5 people were hurt and more than 1,000 structures were destroyed. The Smiths are scheduled to appear in court again this week.
Mom-and-pop businesses in LA County are adapting to recently implemented COVID-19 ordinances. Our reporter Malik Patterson has the story.
California was one of the first states to have a person test positive for the Omicron variant. Subsequently, Los Angeles County became a leader in the new OSHA emergency temporary standards. 42nd Street Bagel is a popular mom-and-pop shop in the Claremont College's community. As a result, it became a staple for its people during the pandemic. Effective since July, Los Angeles County has tightened up its restrictions, mandates for restaurants, diners, and bars.
First and foremost is the safety of my employees as well as their families. So we continue to mandate the masks. We are asking our customers, our regulars, news.
The new restrictions mandates that all customers and staff, vaccinated or not, wear a mask at all times while inside establishments.
Kind of actually had seen a decline as things were going down. We actually had a lot of college students coming in as last-minute customers.
The loss of neighborhood businesses will have a rippling effect on communities such as this one for years to come.
Nothing was normal for us with the shutdown, not being able to go out or anything. This staying open is like a sense of comfort and normalcy.
As new variants come out, mom and pop shops must learn to stay afloat and adjust to the new mandates so they can thrive throughout the pandemic. Reporting for Valley View News, I am Malik Patterson.
More to come on Valley View News. An Amazon facility collapses in Illinois, and a toy drive in Inglewood aims to bring holiday cheer to vulnerable families. We'll be right back.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to turn it over to Valley View's Margot Rowe, who has all the latest in international news. Margot?
England approved COVID-19 booster shots for people over age 30 this week. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced the move after reports that 10 people were currently in the hospital with the Omicron variant of the virus.
Everyone eligible aged 18 and over in England will have the chance to get their booster before the new year.
Boosters in the UK are now being given around 3 months after the second dose instead of after 6 months like in the US. The London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine predicts that a wave of Omicron infections will hit most of the UK. As of last Saturday, the UK reported more than 54,000 new cases, 633 of which were Omicron. So far, more than 22 million people in the UK have now had a third vaccination or booster. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa contracted COVID-19 symptoms after testing positive last week. It was announced by the Office of the Presidency that he has only mild symptoms and has been receiving treatment since diagnosis. He started feeling sick after leaving the state memorial service that honored former Deputy President F.W. de Klerk in Cape Town. Only 25% of the country has been fully vaccinated, with an additional 5% being partially vaccinated. Ramaphosa was fully vaccinated and has tested negative when he returned to Johannesburg from Cape Town. At least 3 people died and several are missing after a building collapsed in southern Italy early last Sunday morning. It happened in the town of Ravanusa. The mayor confirmed that no children were among the dead or missing. Authorities said the building collapsed after a gas leak explosion. 3 homes were destroyed and the 4th was damaged. Search and rescue teams continue to look for the missing. Officials say bad weather caused a gas pipeline to rupture, leading to the explosion. That's all in international news. Back to you, Mary.
A long-running bookbinding business practices what's becoming a disappearing art. I recently got a chance to speak to the company's owner about his passion for keeping his craft alive.
Okay.
Located on the 2nd floor of a cheese store in Beverly Hills is a 54-year-old bookbinding business run by a man named Jack Chitjan. He shared the background of his craft, which happens to be lost art.
My grandfather, in the late 1800s, started bookbinding, and it passed on to my dad, and then it passed down to me. So I'm third-generation bookbinder.
At age 21, Chitjan took charge of the business, which restores antique books, creates fine leather bindings for scripts, along with a touch of gold stamping.
With this machine I used for gold stamping on the book covers and everything, I can stamp logos.
The cheese store below, also founded in 1967, has its own history. Its owner, Norbert WABNIG, has been business neighbors with Chitjan all the time.
We are each other's customers. Jack has helped me out on a couple of occasions with a book that we needed bound. And, you know, he always gets a little bit of cheese and some bread and wine.
The craft of bookbinding is a lost art and something you don't hear as much of. So if you ever have a book that needs to be repaired and want to grab some cheese along the way, you know exactly where to come. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Mary Peronian.
Rideshare company Lyft says it's giving employees another year to work remotely. The company said workers don't need to return until 2023 instead of the original February 2022 start date. The new policy is meant to give employees more flexibility during the pandemic. The mandate reversal comes as the COVID-19 Omicron variant raises worldwide concerns. A Lyft spokesperson says the policy change isn't directly tied to Omicron, but that it is a factor in the decision. Lyft's offices will fully reopen in February. In-person returns will be optional.
Amtrak train services may be reduced next year. On January 4th, the company will start complying with vaccine requirements for federal workers. Amtrak President Stephen Gardner says he doesn't anticipate having enough employees to run all trains once the mandate takes effect. Gardner says 94% of his employees are fully vaccinated. 96% have received at least one dose. Officials say many engineers, conductors, and employees retired or quit Amtrak during the pandemic. Funding uncertainties and social distancing requirements cause a halt in the hiring process. Amtrak says they'll return to regular services as soon as it has enough employees.
At least 6 people were killed at an Illinois Amazon warehouse after an EF3 tornado caused major structural damage.
We do at this time are able to confirm that we have more than one fatality at that location.
45 people made it out of the building. However, one person needed to be airlifted to the hospital for immediate care. First responders will take 3 more days to search for any signs of life and recover bodies. Amazon CEO Dave Clark said the staff was saddened by this loss of life. Employees in the building said they had been directed to shelter in bathrooms by their managers after receiving alerts on mobile phones. The first warning was issued about 40 minutes before the tornado hit. Some employees gave conflicting accounts as to whether the bathroom was the designated place for shelter. The company didn't comment on the question about shelter places.
Workers at Starbucks in Buffalo, New York voted to unionize at least one cafe. Those Starbucks employees outlined what the next steps were going to be.
We have earned our seat and we have proven that we are Starbucks.
A second cafe in Buffalo had voted against unionization, and a third's result are still pending. Other locations in the area are also seeking a vote on unionizing as well. Another cafe outside of New York is Mesa, Arizona, is also planning to vote. The efforts to unionize are frowned upon by management, despite some workers filing a federal labor charge accusing the company of illegal practices. The activity included engaging in a campaign of threats, intimidation, as well as surveillance in response to the union's push. The company has denied any sort of illegal activity.
One woman created the nonprofit Inglewood's Helping Hands in order to help the people in her community. Her latest project was a toy drive to help struggling families during the holidays. Our reporter Salazar-Stevens has more.
As Christmas approaches, toy drives are popular. This drive is led by Caitlin Parham, who founded Inglewood's Helping Hands. The nonprofit held a toy drive in front of the Sip and Sonder Coffee House to help struggling families with children in need of toys this season.
Most people spend more than half their checks to survive. So it's like you would think, oh, it's just a toy, they're not going to care. But it's just like there are moms, there are dads right now who are like, I don't even know how I'm going to make the holidays happen.
Parham started her organization 5 years ago when she was only 19. She says her motivation was the people in her community who she wanted to help.
There's a vulnerable population that's not being nurtured and that's not being taken care of. And so I could ask people to do it, or I felt like I could get out and I could do it myself.
NADIRAH ERVIN stopped by to make a monetary donation. Although she isn't originally from Inglewood, she says she's working on getting more involved in her community.
I always try my hardest to get, connected to the communities here. So just seeing people doing something for their communities always, just give me a little urge. If something, it's better than nothing.
Parm's love for Inglewood is another thing that pushes her to do as much as possible to help her city.
One of the things I love about Inglewood is its blackness. And I think it's important to see us out here showing love, spreading love, sending love.
Although Parm's next event is not planned yet, she says whatever she plans to do will depend on whatever her community needs. Reporting from Inglewood for Valley View News, I'm Celine Stevens.
When we come back, Travis Scott continues to deny liability for the deaths of concert-goers during his show at Astroworld. Also, a blind skateboarding CSUN student shows us that he's much more than his disability. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Popular Mexican singer-songwriter Vicente Fernandez passed at age 81 in his hometown Guadalajara. Fernandez was known as the king of ranchera music. His style transcended Mexico and reached Spanish-speaking communities across the world. Fernandez also received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He won 3 Grammys and 8 Latin Grammys. Fernandez appeared in numerous films and sold more than 50 million records.
Hip-hop artist Travis Scott denied allegations of negligence in the multiple lawsuits filed against him for the Astroworld Festival tragedy. 10 people died and hundreds were injured after crowd surges in the Houston's NRG Park Stadium. Scott is named in nearly 300 lawsuits stemming from a fan stampede and crowd surges. Some Astroworld guests say Scott saw people fainting and getting trampled in the crowd, but they say he prioritized his performance and profits over their well-being. In court records, Scott's representatives denied all allegations on his behalf and on behalf of his label Cactus Jack Records.
Former Empire actor Jussie Smollett was found guilty on 5 of 6 felony charges against him. They included disorderly conduct for falsely reporting a hate crime. Smollett continues to claim that it was he who was the victim of a hate crime conducted by 2 brothers in Chicago in 2019. However, those brothers testified that Smollett paid them thousands to fake the crime and he told them what to say. Special Prosecutor Daniel Webb claims Smollett lied and attributed that to his losing the case.
But defendants do not have the right to go in front of a jury and lie under oath. Mr. Smollett would not have lost this case, as he did today, unless the jury found that he lied to them.
The judge has set the post-trial hearing for January 27th. Smollett will be sentenced at a later date.
Kim Kardashian passed California's first-year law student's exam, also known as the baby bar. It was her 4th attempt. Kardashian is a step closer to being able to legally practice law in the state. The reality star tested positive for COVID-19 earlier this year and had to push back taking the exam. The baby bar is one of the 2 exams she needed to pass. All attorneys in the state must pass exams certified by the State Bar of California. Kardashian's father, Robert Kardashian, was an attorney famous for defending O.J. Simpson during his murder trial. Kardashian posted her results on Instagram and said her father would be proud.
Living with a disability can sometimes feel as though your life is put on hold. However, I recently spoke with a CSUN student who is determined to use his management of his disability as an inspiration to others.
COCO ATAMA, just call him COCO, is a CSUN student with big dreams and a passion for skateboarding.
Skateboarding is my life. Skateboarding is my heart. Skateboarding is my soul. Because when I'm on a board, I feel normal.
When you first watch him skate, you may not notice he's blind. COCO lost his vision to a disease called Leber's congenital amaurosis, or LCA.
I was born with near perfect vision. However, I was also born with this condition called LCA. And LCA basically attacks the rods and cones in my eyes and slowly, over time, gradually took away my vision to what it is right now.
Learning how to do tricks while blind might be hard, but he says it's all worth it.
The concept of making your board rotate in any direction and still landing back on it without being able to watch it turn terrifies me. But I do it because I know I can, and once I land it, that trick is mine and no one can take it from me.
He says his dream is to go pro and one day become a beacon of inspiration.
I want to go pro, so that way I can help anyone who may be less fortunate than me, who maybe doesn't have a support system, or parents who believe in them, or people who push them. But when they go home and they look on their TV and they see me, they believe that anything is possible. That's right.
COCO says that he never plans on quitting skateboarding, and in the future he hopes to open his own all-inclusive skate park. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Elizabeth Medina.
Former football star Demaryius Thomas has died. The 33-year-old was found dead in his Georgia home Friday. Family members say Thomas passed due to an undisclosed medical issue, shocking many fans and fellow players. Thomas played 10 seasons in the NFL, most notably as number 88 for the Denver Broncos. Hall of Fame quarterback and Thomas's former teammate Peyton Manning says he was a wonderful person to friends and family. After a Broncos interception Sunday against the Detroit Lions, teammates paid their respects to Thomas's number on the field. Thomas appeared in 4 Pro Bowls. He was selected in the first round of the 2010 draft.
Rapper Megan Thee Stallion received the 18th Congressional District of Texas Hero Award. The hip-hop star won the award after graduating from Texas Southern University. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Health Administration. Officials say Stallion played an important role in her community during the COVID-19 pandemic. She provided gloves and masks throughout the area and to the Harris County Jail. Stallion received a certificate and flag to honor her work. In a speech, Stallion said she's thankful to represent the city of Houston.
Injuries are always a difficult obstacle to overcome in sports. That challenge becomes much harder when a team suffers multiple injuries. Valley View's Paige Jones says injuries are a newfound dilemma in the Matadome.
The Matadors face the challenges of new coaching leadership, while also being plagued by injuries on the basketball team. The unexpected news came this week that senior point guard Darius Brown II will be out for the season. Teammate Lance Coleman II says Brown is an important part of the team.
Losing our point guard is definitely a very hard thing for our team to overcome. He's been our leader, the last 4 years, on the court, off the court, good example to the younger kids.
Brown II is a vital component to the Matadors' success. Without him in the lineup, many wonder how the team will manage. Teammate Armand Pazeshkian believes the team has players who can step up and face adversity.
I think the team has to adjust by everyone just doing a little bit more than what they were normally going to do.
Brown II played in all 93 of his college games. Now, his injury forced him to miss his first 2 games this week. Forward Fidelis Okereke says it's been tough not playing with the team's star.
He's the guy that usually holds a lot of the pressure, just being as a point guard in the position he plays. So losing him has been something, I guess, just a very big challenge for our team to face.
Despite the injury obstacles the Matadors currently face, they do not lose hope, and they intend to turn all their focus on the conference games ahead and fill the void of Brown's absence. Reporting from Northridge, I'm Paige Jones.
That's all for us at Valley View News. I'm Elizabeth Medina.
And I'm Mary Pronian. For stories any time of the day, go to our website, csunvalleyview.edu. Thanks for watching.